Real Talk, Indiana's premier talk show on real estate investing, where we talk each week about investing your money right here in Central Indiana. The tips, tricks, do's, and don'ts, brought to you by CIREIA, Central Indiana's oldest and largest real estate investing association. Hello there. My name is Vicki Perry, and I'm the Executive Director of CIREIA. We have over 600 members, all active in or learning how to be active in real estate here in the Indiana market. This radio show is available on FM 95.9, AM 950, podcast on YouTube, and www.cireia.org. Join us each week as we talk about how you can make your money more active with better returns and help the community that you live in with real estate done the right way. Now, on with the show.
And welcome to the program. This is Real Talk, the only local real estate investing radio show where active investors discuss real estate investing done the right way every Saturday and Sunday from noon until 1 p.m. I'm Ron Watson, president of the board of directors of CIREIA, and your host today. We're going to be discussing some of the headlines that are affecting the real estate investing world, and you can check out how to contact each of our co-hosts on our website at CIREIA.org, and now changing to CIREIA.club to make that even more confusing, and find out how to reference the materials we're going to be speaking about during the program. Joining me are three of the top investors in Central Indiana. First, we have Dave Short with Century 21 Sheets, and Dave's an investor, realtor, coach, mentor, and one of the most sought-after rehabbers in Central Indiana. Welcome back, Dave.
Great to be here.
And Brian Snyder, operations manager for Simple Wholesaling, one of the top wholesalers in the state of Indiana. Welcome again, Brian.
Hello, hello.
And joining us remotely is Sterling Davis, owner of Athocity Property Management and vice president of the board of CIREIA. Welcome back, Sterling.
Hello, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing great today. Appreciate everybody being here with us, and we appreciate everybody who's listening out there. We're going to talk about several things today. We really like to cover all kinds of topics related to real estate investing. Today, we're going to talk about one of Sterling's favorite topics, the Homeowners Association. So we're going to actually, what I thought I might do here is to introduce the topic a little bit. I'm looking at an article that says 9 things you need to know about homeowners associations. And we're going to cover probably as many of them as we can given the time that we have, and then I'd like to get the perspective of each of our investors here on these particular topics. So I think most people know that if you purchase a condo, townhouse, or single family home in a planned community, many times you have to join a homeowners association, which HOAs are the short for homeowners association, where you have to pay monthly or annual fees for the upkeep of common areas, structures, shared exteriors, etc. About 1 in 5 homes belong to a homeowners association, and I thought we'd hit a couple of the important points to know, and then I'd like to get some opinions from the folks in the room and on the phone. Number 1, according to this article, is learn the homeowners association rules. I know that I'm a member of a homeowners association. There's all kinds of rules and regulations you have to follow. And then also find out if you want to buy, what you're wanting to buy is in compliance with those rules. So let's stop there with those two. We'll hit some of the other ones later. Sterling, I know you're dying to kind of get this topic started, so why don't you give us your opinion on those two particular items, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think, I think it's really good what this article is talking about, because it is about rules and it's about regulations. And as a broker, I think everyone almost in that room with you guys are brokers at this point. We deal with this when we are selling and buying property. For me, I just hate being told what to do, though.
Oh, that's a good one. Actually, that's number 5 on the list, I think. I'm pretty sure. Yes, it's number 4. Consider your temperament. Are you the type of person who hates being told what to do? So I guess that falls into your category.
Exactly, and I probably should have thought about that before we purchased a condo that has a HOA board and things like that, right? Because it's so funny, because I own a property management company, and I oftentimes tell people what to do. Uh-huh. And now it's having
Shoes
to
on
take
the
away.
Foot. Yeah.
How's that working with your wife right now, with you hung up in bed with a knee injury?
Exactly. she's still the boss. Let me say this as she looks glaring at me as she's working. I think HOAs are good because they seem to be able to hold value when they're run correctly, when they have order. But I think some things as investors, I just get frustrated with. But I think it's really important to know the rules before you enter it. Like one of the things that I don't know if we contemplated when we first bought our condo was the rental guidelines inside of the HOA. Like they have a cap inside of our HOA that allows so many rentals per buildings and things. And now who's approved for the rentals? I think that's more of in my neighborhood, a popularity contest. But I think it is something that you need to know as an investor, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one of the things, and touching on what Sterling just said about the rentals, is that, we love to buy condos in areas that have HOAs. But we have to look at how solvent, how much does the HOA have in there? Is everybody paying the dues? There's just so much to do, but our last 3 flips have been in areas that have HOAs. And as an investor who flips houses, we love those because 95% of the time we don't have to do anything on the outside of a condo, which cuts our rehab costs down considerably. And people have already said they want to live in a condo because of what it offers, and the HOA doesn't. I dislike a homeowner's HOA with single family houses versus condos because they just typically don't have the power to keep the neighborhood up.
Yeah, I know it's always important from the wholesaler standpoint to make sure number one, if your house has an HOA or not, because when I first got started, that was one of the things I ran into. Like investors asked, does it have an HOA? Like, I have no idea. Where do I find that?
Right.
So that's always important to know. But then also too, just knowing the rules of is this property, can people rent it out? What can they do with it? Are they able to put certain type? Is there a restriction on any windows or anything like that they can put on it? So every HOA just has different rules, different regulations. So I know from the wholesaler standpoint, if you are trying to wholesale that property, make sure you have at least access to that so you can provide to people that are looking to buy your property.
Well, there's a lot of things you can look at as an HOA just by driving the neighborhood to see how strong that HOA. I mean, if there's deteriorating siding on an obvious situation, that could mean that your HOA is underfunded or people are not paying their dues. If you go in August and the neighborhood association pool is not open, you can rest assured that HOA is not well managed or well funded or both, and would create a red flag for you to buy something that you're buying for a 5 to 15 year investment.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Just full disclosure, I used to be president of our homeowners association, Sterling.
Of course you did.
I know, right? So I'm glad you're on the phone.
That says so much about him, doesn't it?
I'm glad he's on the phone and not in the room because I'd be afraid to say that if he was here. But, I think the idea of what we were trying to do there, and this article says too, is try to maintain the quality of life for the community residents and protect the property values for all owners. That's really the genesis and the idea behind it. I think Dave's got a really good point, which was, watch for under management. That's one of the items in this article. Watch for under management. Is it a strong, as much as you don't like to be told what to do, you do want a homeowners association that is paying attention. They are collecting the dues. They are spending the money on the property, and they are legitimately enhancing the value of the property. And so I think you can check that out. One of the things that this article also recommends is get a copy of the minutes from the last meeting, because there you can kind of get a feel for what's going on. What are they? Is it just a contentious group of people? Are they really focusing on the things that are going to make the properties better? Are they actively involved and those kinds of things? I think those are all really good points to look at if you're buying into a property like that.
Well, we sold some of the things you have to look for too in association. This sounds like a boring subject, but it really isn't. There's a lot going on when you're making an investment in a house that has an HOA, and just like one of the things that you have to look at, if you go into a nice community, then the HOAs it doesn't come to my mind which community is in Indianapolis, But the HOA dues, it's a beautiful community, and the HOA dues are only $200 a month, which is very low for a nice condominium community that's well kept. Well, if you look into their bylaws, they have special assessments every 2 years to make decisions on landscaping, roofs, windows, siding for buildings. So every 2 years, the association might levy a $2,500 assessment on all the property owners. So and that's okay if that's the way the situation's set up and it's beautifully maintained. But what that means is your association dues are not $200 a month; they're $425 a month to do those kind of things. So you just have to make sure you're not buying, where that, hey, in 2 years I may have associations. A lot of times they'll spread it out over 2 years, but that means in 2 years you're going to have $450 association fees.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that we have to make sure. Most realtors don't know that. A lot of the people looking at it don't necessarily know that unless they talk to the president of the association. If Ron's living there, he'll probably be the president, so you can call him.
That's right.
But these association guys, and you can talk to the president almost exclusively and know if you want to live in that association, if you want to live in that neighborhood, just on his thinking and how he feels about his neighborhood. We live in one. Our dues are relatively high, but I talked to our association, and our facility is beautifully well maintained. We know the money's been spent. It's a solvent organization. If a roof goes bad, they can replace it immediately without assessment.
Yeah, I've really appreciated mine lately, as I have not had to go out and shovel my driveway or anything. So that's been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
They piled the snow on our driveway. My wife called within 2 hours. They'd taken all the snow off off our sidewalk. It's pretty amazing, but that's a sign of a well-run association.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's where, like, as an investor, you just have to know your numbers too, like what Dave was saying, because that was something that, initially when we purchased as an investment property, I don't know if we really took, this was almost 8-9 years ago, right? Like, took into account of what that means, right? Because if it goes from 250 to 450, now we're talking about your margins and is this a profitable investment or is it not a profitable investment? So I think it's really important to understand how HOAs run and things when you're talking about holding properties. And I think that's the thing I would probably press upon new landlords and investors.
Yeah, that's actually number 9 on this list, is consider the impact of HOA fees on your finances. Because it does impact the money that you can spend. In this example, it talks about you might be able to afford a condo for $100,000 with a $500 a month homeowner's fees, or $150,000 condo with $250 in monthly fees. So it depends on, it is a factor to consider. And if you're renting out a property, if you're in a situation where you're able to do that in that neighborhood, then those fees still have to be paid. So how are you going to include that? Are you going to include it in the rent? Is that the responsibility of the tenant? Right. Those are the kinds of things you got to be thinking about and communicate with your tenants.
Well, we've taken some clients out of where they were initially wanting a nice condominium project with a $250 to $300 monthly fee, but they couldn't find the space that they felt that they needed. We could take them to new construction in a limited HOA where it only might be $100 a month. And now they can jump their buying power up from $175,000 to sometimes almost $300,000 and have the same monthly outlay. And if they buy new construction in our area, then they're not going to have any maintenance on that house from an exterior standpoint. Shouldn't have for 15 to 18 years. So it becomes new construction with the limited homeowners association fee becomes a great alternative for people.
Yeah, my neighborhood happens to be an older neighborhood, so it's got some nice amenities, but those amenities are also older, so there's a lot of upkeep and maintenance required for those. We have one of the largest pools I've seen in neighborhoods. I think in new neighborhoods they don't build them that way anymore, and partly because after 40 years, you start to have a lot of money you got to spend on them. So that's an issue that you have to take into account.
Well, and all the new subdivisions that have pools and parks as part of it, is parks were mandated by typically the city to be there, and they have more what I would classify shelter areas versus clubhouses to maintain,
Right.
and a little bit nicer, maybe not as big, but a little bit nicer pool, and that services the community very well.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, we see that, especially with the baby boomers, what Dave was talking about, where you can get a really nice house and you kind of downgrade from your 8,000 square foot house to a 5,000 square foot condo with limited HOAs has been kind of a big move for a couple of our investors here in Indy.
Well, and I think, and as people and buyers are looking at these units, and also us as investors, is that the older the building, the more likely the higher the association fees. There's a Northeast subdivision. Their association fees are, almost $500 a month. But it's an older facility. They have to spend a lot of money on maintaining grounds and security and other things that go with living in a gated private community, and maintain the streets. I think that's why a lot of the people don't realize when you gate a community, you sometimes have to assume ownership of the streets, and if you leave the community ungated, then the city will take responsibilities for your street repair, snow removal, those kinds of things. So there's a lot to think about when we're doing HOA associations and trying to decide where we want to be.
Sterling, as a property manager, I wanted to ask you, how do you guys keep up to date on what's going on with any changes that maybe the HOA might put out there and stuff? So is it you guys kind of leave that to the HOAs to kind of make that communication with you, or do you have somebody that checks on that stuff, or how do you guys go about that?
That's a great question. So we try to be really strategic partners with the HOAs because indirectly what happens is a lot of times it's the homeowner name that's on there. So what we try to do is make sure that our company is involved with it. So any notification that comes out, we're notified about it. Common things like water's been turned off, tomorrow between these hours. Those are the things as property managers we need to be able to notify our tenants, but oftentimes are reflected to the owner in an email or something like that. So it's really important that we build a relationship, or if you're a landlord, you build a relationship with the homeowners association, and even to the point where you even ask your tenants to even try to sit and go to these meetings, because the more and more they are involved in the community, the more and more that makes for a better experience all around. Because I think that's the fear, is people, well, let's be real, I complain about my HOA, but I do not identify a rental property across the street from me, just because what does that mean? It means that they probably aren't taking care of it. They're not. So as much as we can integrate people with the HOA and follow the rules and covenants, it's going to be the best result for everyone.
When I would caution people, and I see it probably a lot more now than I used to see it on the foreclosure aspect. When you move into one of these communities that has an HOA, you are obligated to pay those fees. Mm-hmm. And if you don't pay the fees or you ignore them, the HOA can foreclose upon your property and take them. Now, they have to take them subject to the mortgage, but in the last Marion County sales over the last 2 years, I've noticed at least 4 properties that were foreclosed upon for HOA fees that people didn't have mortgages on them. They just thought they didn't have to pay their fees, and the people lost all rights to their houses by not paying their fees, and they didn't have a mortgage on them. And they just were stubborn, and they lost or abandoned the property, thinking that, well, they can't sell my property because I haven't paid the $200 a month fees. And yes, they can.
Yeah, wow.
We had one, a year ago that we bought that didn't have a mortgage on it, and we paid $30,000 out. We outbid a couple other investors, and they only owed $11,000 on their back HOA fees, but they had ignored them for over 2 years.
Wow, I've never heard that before. That's interesting. I know as a former president of HOA, I didn't ever have that particular experience. We did try to, we put liens on properties and things like that, and if we had to, you didn't really want to have to do that either, but because they're your neighbors. But sometimes it was people that maybe were renting, and then you had a tenant landlord situation. So I've seen both sides of that. I'd rather not have to be in a situation where you have to try to figure out how you're going to collect that money. But this has been some really good discussion. There's a lot of information, and particularly for real estate investors, to dig into all this, because it does affect your investment. It does impact how much money you're going to make on a monthly basis if you're renting, and if you're trying to sell. And like Dave said, maybe you have to consider that as maybe there's some money that you potentially owe before you can actually be able to sell a property.
So we can maybe give the next segment gives investors some tips on how they can possibly go into an association that doesn't have rentals and have a good investment in those locations.
All right, that sounds good. Let's do that. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back after this message.
Midwest Garage Door Systems, Real Talk's premium sponsor, is a locally and family-owned business, answering your garage door repair and replacement needs for over 30 years in central Indiana. Doing business the right way is what Midwest is all about. Check out MidwestGarageDoors.com or call 317-449-8440, 317-449-8440.
Are you looking for a new place for lunch or dinner, or a fun place to hold your next company party? Check out Trader's Mill Grill and Bar. Awesome, friendly staff, fabulous food made from scratch, full bar and daily drink specials. Make it an evening with more than 20 screens to get your favorite games, including Golden Tee. Also has 3 pool tables. You can find their menu and hours at tradermill.com. Check out Trader's Mill Grill and Bar, located at 5650 West 86th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Do you have a house that you want to sell, but you don't want to fix it up before you sell it? Or you need the cash quickly? Or you just inherited Aunt Susie's house and don't know what to do with it? That's what Dave Short does. He buys houses so you can get on with your life. He pays cash, closes quickly, and buys in all central Indiana. For details, call Dave at 317-590-4499 or email Dave at bshort@c21sheets.com. That's spelled C21SCHEETZ.com.
And welcome back to Real Talk. My name is Ron Watson, the president of the board of directors of CIREIA, and your host today. We're going to be speaking, continuing the conversation with Dave Short from Century 21 Sheets, Brian Snyder from Simple Wholesaling, and Sterling Davis with Athocity Property Management. We're talking about homeowners associations and some of the things that you need to keep an eye out for as an investor. I thought I'd mention a few things here when we talk about fees. These are really good points that are in this article that talk about the 9 key factors when you're looking at homeowners association. And so this one is it talks about how are homeowners fees increases set, how often do increases occur, and by how much have they historically been raised. Can you get printed history of HOA dues by year for the last 10 years, and how large is the HOA's reserve fund? Dave mentioned that a couple of times, how that's something that he feels is important when he looks into an homeowners association. What do the monthly dues cover? For example, do you still have to pay for garbage pickup? Is cable included? Things like that. Can you get a record of special assessments that have been made? I think also Dave mentioned that your dues may be low, but then they have a regular occurrence of special assessments to make up for that. So there's some of the things that this article recommends that you really dig into. And I know that all of you guys here that are investing in these types of properties have looked into this stuff, and we've talked about some of them already. But so, Dave, was there anything else that you wanted to add to that? I know you talked about how do you find out some of this information, where do you get some of the details and some of the documents?
Well, most of the HOAs that we're running across today are not self-managed. In the past, they used to be almost all self-managed, and they found out that the people were taking positions on the board that really had no interest or had no knowledge on how to run a business, because the HOA is a business. So now most of the good complexes are, and I'm talking condominiums now, are taken over by HOA association or by companies that actually manage it. So when that happens, you can always go to the website or talk to neighbors and see who they make their HOA dues payable to see who manages it. You typically can go to their website and get all the information that we're looking for when we're trying to buy a condominium in a community and I'm talking now to flip. One of the things that we want to look at is what percentage of the units can be rented, and are they at capacity in rental. That's very, very important to a flipper to know, because it may take out 60 or 65% of his potential buyers. Because if a community is rented, and maybe Sterling, you know the percentage that can be rented in a community, I want to say it's around 15 or 20%.
Yeah.
If it's over that as rental property, then FHA and VA will not loan in those communities. So that eliminates a large pool of entry-level buyers that might buy in the community. So that means your buyer has to be a little better quality buyer from a down payment standpoint, from a credit history standpoint. So if there's any deferred maintenance in these communities, these quality buyers may not be as willing to come into the community. Also, on the foreclosure aspect of the HOAs, when we look at the foreclosure document, we bought one at the sheriff's sale last week. We looked at the foreclosure documents, and we want to make sure the HOA is named in the suit on the foreclosure, or you could be responsible for all unpaid fees against that community. 90% of the attorneys do list them as, as a defendant in it, so the past HOA dues are gone and you don't have to pay them. But if they're not, you could be responsible to pay for those. And we got caught on one of those about a year ago. Fortunately, it was only 7 or 8 months, but it was $1,600 that we had to come out of pocket that we didn't anticipate on the sale because the attorney didn't foreclose it properly.
Yeah, and I think, for us, like we've seen this last year. We had a client that we were helping find a rental property, and so we found a condo for them. We placed them. We didn't do any of the management after that. We just kind of was a traditional real estate transaction where we got the commission just for bringing the tenant. Get a call 6 months later that the property manager or whoever the landlord was didn't get the approval to make that into a rental. So they had to, move pretty abruptly in the middle of their lease term because they wasn't approved for it, which kind of brings up the point of, like, it's better just to go and follow the rules. And there are rules around if there are rental caps that you can get around this. One being, if you have a neighborhood, it normally comes at first come, first served basis. Like Dave said, the number is normally around 20% when it comes down to percentage of rentals in neighborhoods. What you also can do is you can have what is like a rent-to-buy scenario where they are buying it on contract, which this does set up a different precedent because now we're not talking about tenancy. We're talking about, actually somebody getting put on title and things like that. So it is a different process, but you're not necessarily renting out the property. And I think that's why if you're going to do this, the first call you need to make is to the association to make sure that you aren't caught in a situation like this tenant or this landlord where the tenant had to move abruptly and the homeowner association was able to levy some fines against the prospective landlord for moving that tenant into the resident.
When you look at when you talk to the association or the people that's managing, if they tell you that it's a 70% rental community, then it becomes a very difficult finance. It becomes a very difficult sale because typically the maintenance of that facility and the pool and everything else has a different level there of people that's visiting and being in these things. So owner occupants tend to shy away from them, so they typically won't. They become very hard flips to sell.
So have you guys had any experience with, if you're kind of put in that situation where somebody wants to buy that property, you don't want to like rent it out, or they're doing like a rent to own or a land contract or even a note mortgage or anything like that. Do you guys have any experience in that of when an HOA is involved and just dealing with
We've, I was going to tell Sterling, we've actually run across some HOAs that they'll consider a rent to buy as a lease and won't even look at it as a sale.
Usually because there's not a significant enough down payment or something for it.
We had one about a year and a half ago that we had sold and we had hoped to be a rental. So we basically had to flip-flop and do a contract. We did a land contract where we couldn't let that tenant that had agreed to lease it in there, so we had to sell it on a contract. Now, it's worked out well for him because we get a substantial down payment where an HOA can't look at it as any way, shape, or form that it's a lease.
Right.
So you need more than $500 down just to protect you, because as a owner of the property, you're creating an equitable interest in that property. Right. So the eviction process in Indiana or Indianapolis, Marion County is, you can typically get them out in a month. Is that a fair statement, Sterling?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you put them on land contract and these people are savvy enough, it could take you a year and a half to get them out of your property with them with non-payment. So it's a different strategy that you have to know all the ups and downs if you're going to try to, for lack of a better term, trick the association so you can get your tenant in there.
Yeah, so it's really about, and I think that's why this topic is of value, is as an investor, you got to educate yourself on what's going on in the neighborhood and what you're buying. Do they, first of all, they have the HOA? Is there one in place? If so, then start working through this list of information, some of the topics that we've talked about here, as far as how things are managed and how it might affect your investment. And like Dave said, it might change your strategy.
And just two flippers need to know, or people that's going to try to flip in these specific properties, is that the insurance is something that you need to look into. Most condominium HOA insurance policies cover you to the drywall, so you have to have enough coverage that if the building burns down, then you have only coverage to be built to where it's framed in. So you have to drywall it, put the appliances in, trim it, paint it, put new floor coverings. So a lot of investors say, well, I've got HOA insurance, I don't need to have insurance on the property. Well, if a catastrophe happens, they would be responsible for probably another, easily $100,000 to put that property back in shape to rent. So insurance is, you need to know what your true coverage is on the building on it. So that's another thing that an investor has to look at and keep in mind.
Yeah, good point. And that is often, I know, as a tenant or landlord, you want to have in your lease some information or requirement that the tenants insure, inside their property, their the things that they bring to the table, because then you don't want to have a dispute with them. So that's something that should be also spelled out in a lease, and I'm sure if you have more detailed questions about that, Sterling will be happy to help you with that. We're going to take a quick break here, though, and we'll be back with another segment after this message. Are you looking for a career change or a life change? That is the mission behind Simple Wholesaling, the leading provider of discounted properties in Indianapolis. Simple Wholesaling is all about making the process simple for buyers of properties, sellers of properties, and members of the Central Indiana community who want to generate wealth, free up time, and then help you use that wealth and freedom to make a difference in the world. Check them out at www.simplewholesaling.com or email Brian@simplewholesaling.com or call 317-494-7211.
Is this you? You've heard about landlording and you love the idea of a steady stream of income from real estate, but you're concerned about tackling the 2 a.m. calls and worrying about renters who don't pay their rent on time? That's where the pros at Ethosity Property Management take the hassle out of investing for you. They handle the toilets and tenants for over 300 local rentals and are happy to help you with yours. Call Sterling at 888-212-3764 or check out www.ethosity, that's ETHOSITYPM.com. CIREIA.com.
Are you wanting to get started in investing but don't know what to do first? Maybe you took one of the national guru classes, but you're still confused. Our members are doing business locally, and they remember that they were beginners at one time too. Start by joining the biggest and oldest real estate investment club in Central Indiana. Take our classes and network with people who love what they do and are willing to help you through the startup stage. Check out CIREIA.org. That's CIREIA.org.
And welcome back to the program. This is Real Talk, the only local real estate investing radio show where active investors discuss real estate investing done the right way every Saturday and Sunday from noon until 1 p.m. And joining me today is Dave Short, Brian Snyder, and Sterling Davis. And we were talking about HOA, one of Sterling's favorite topics. And I think we've put that to bed for now, Sterling, so you can relax, settle down. We're good. We're going to switch topics and look at what lenders look at on your credit report. So I want to hit a couple highlights, and then we'll start with you, Sterling, because I know you have this is a topic that you're involved with on a very regular basis. This article that I'm looking at here from Investopedia refers to payment history, outstanding debt, length of credit history, new accounts, types of credit used, and those types of things. So you want to start with what you guys are looking at and the process that you go through for your tenants?
Yeah. So what we try to look at, and when we start talking about pulling credit reports, we pull the financial, we do background, as well as we do criminal, of course. When we start talking about, late payments and things, those play a factor. We talked about last week about utility charges and things like that can show up on people's credit report as well. At the end of the day, at Ethosity, we want to improve the quality of life for our stakeholders, and the tenants are definitely one of our major stakeholders, as well as investors. And I think back when I first started this, my mom is a real estate agent, and she was like, Sterling, get a little prepaid card, pay off all your debt, and put spend on a piece of gum and then pay it off, to start just building your credit up, because it's so important to make sure that you take care of your credit. This is something that follows you along, and even as a tenant, we try to educate people on this as being a borrower, because this is kind of your report card of what we're looking at. And of course, we would discuss how these loopholes and stuff are, but honestly, this is the only thing that we can judge you off of, is how what we're trying to see is how likely will this person pay their rent on time with us. And these factors do play a point with the different collection agencies and things like that as well.
And so, Dave, when you're talking about this process, I know you're doing a lot of flips, so you're maybe not as focused on credit reporting. I know you have some tenants as well, but is this an area that you spend much time with in your
we spend a lot of time with it, because we want to accept offers on our flips from people that are credit worthy. So that's one of the top things we look at on what we call a pre-approval on. Before we would ever accept an offer on a flip, we would want a pre-approval letter from a lender saying that they have at least been credit approved and income approved to buy our flip. I was going to ask Sterling. It's like, when we talk about credit, in my world, 620 seems to be a 620 FICO score seems to be a minimum acceptable credit report.
Yeah.
And they prefer 640 for FHA. But if you get into much higher credit scores, the process seems to be a lot easier to get done. And right. I would ask Sterling, as a landlord, a lot of times when I get a pre-approval letter and I would see their credit score is 740, I just quit reading and moved on. Is that a fair thing to do, Sterling, or do I need to look past?
Yeah.
Do I need to look past that?
Well, I think for us, if we only took the people with the 640s, then we probably wouldn't have any tenants, right?
Right. I know you have to just, but
so I don't even know if I have a 640. Let's be transparent. But I think so for us, it's 525 anything below 525, we can try to figure out some creative ways to maybe getting them approved at a higher deposit and things like that, right? Because it is something where credit has been probably a challenge. But I do think, I think that's the wonderful thing that we talk about week by week is how renters are changing. Like, the people of what renters used to be and what renters were 5 to 7 years ago is even changed. When I first got into this, 8 years ago, renters were people that just solely couldn't buy a house. They couldn't afford a house, or they didn't know that they could afford a house, right? And the thing that we see now is people that are renters are not necessarily people that can't buy a house. It's the people that just don't want to buy a house, and they want the flexibility. And so you see higher credit scores than I've probably ever seen in the last couple of years. Like, it's not uncommon to see, in our downtown rentals now, a credit score greater than 600, where 7 years ago, I mean, for us to get something above 540 was sign them up right now and, make sure, we can get them in the house.
I've always said in the past, which maybe is an untrue statement, does the stripes ever change on people's credit? I mean, if they're a 540 today, are they probably going to be a 540 in 2 years?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think we don't see that much of a change, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's very few and few between, and it's the ones that already are. It might have been something that just drastically.
Yeah, the medical could make it crash, and you could you could get that back. But we used to do a lot of lease option properties with the thought they would pay us off in 3 years, and we'd take them at 550, 560, and invariably on an extremely high percentage of these cases that in 3 years later they were still at that number.
Yeah, so we do a lot of seller financing and stuff, and then we play into that boat of, they tell us up front, like, hey, my credit is bad because of this. So then we have to get, then we kind of have that option of like, all right, what are some things that you can provide for us to show that you are, that you're going to be able to pay us, whether it's, pay stubs from the past, or, we have a lot, we work with a lot of different communities too, like the Latino community. I'll take as an example of where some of that clientele, they might not be able to qualify for a regular mortgage because they don't, maybe get paid by, regular pay stubs, but they have the documentation that they are, whether they're not citizens, but they have an IEN number and, stuff like that. Right. So,
well, I would take that a step further. You're talking about that. Simple Wholesaling has a tremendous podcast, and they touched on that this past week. Go to their website, listen to their podcast. It talked about the Latino market, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, we actually had two guests on there with us this week, Kelly Ibanez and Deanna Bauer, who are fantastic, and it's something that we've kind of built a relationship with them, and something that they do on they do it their way, we do it our way, and stuff like that. But there's a lot of really good info about that. But there's a lot of people that are looking to always improve their credit report because people are aware of it right now. But then there's also people that are put in situations where they might not have the best credit, but they're still able to make those payments, whether it's rent or, on a note mortgage or land contract or anything like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we look at a lot with ours on a tenant base and a buying base also for the future, is that, 3 years ago, if they had a 700 credit score and something happened, it crashed to 550, then those people are used to paying. So we can now get back to that, and we know we can get them back to their situation, and they're probably not going to maintain that low, that lower level.
Well, and that's the thing that, like, I kind of, you always hear, like, 3 times the gross monthly rent. And it's like, I don't know if that necessarily tells the whole story, because if somebody has an open bankruptcy, then that is going to have to be paid down. And if they have outstanding utility bills, that's going to have to be paid off before they have to move in. If they have a car, some of these debts are more aggressive than just like the medical bills and things like that. So those are factors that we definitely take into account because of like having an open bankruptcy. Those are things that are very time sensitive of being able to pay off. And, my rule, everybody that listens to me, we have to be the top 3 in your priorities of payment, right? So we've been the top 3. It has to be your rent and, your cell phone and we have to be in those numbers, right? The minute that it becomes like bankruptcy, cell phone, then us, it's a high likely chance that they're not going to pay, their rent. So I think it's very important to really take into account not just the missed payments of their past and things, but also to look at their bankruptcy, to look at their utility debts that they have on their collection reports and things as well.
Hey, Sterling, so do you ever do anything besides, like if you see a lower credit score, do you sometimes maybe, let's say, ask for more of a deposit up front, some other assurances or some way to offset some of that risk on your side?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in some neighborhoods, you just kind of have to be a little bit more creative than others, right? So we do those things because one of the jokes inside of property management is, especially in the lower end, they say it's Friday afternoon after 6 o'clock, and the person calls and say, "Hey, I have cash and I'm ready to move in today." Yeah. It's like, what do you do with these people?
Right.
Like,
you say no every time. That's my theory.
Just say no every time. Right. So it's a high chance that person is not going to have the money for the next month's rent, but they're ready to move in today. So we do look at alternatives where we can have a full deposit or a double deposit. Those are very far and few between, though, just because those are high risk even for us as a property manager that we try to avoid. We, as much as we want to help
Stripes
people,
probably aren't going to change, are they, Sterling?
Yeah, they just won't change. Like, they got to help themselves to a certain degree, and then we can help them.
All right.
If they can go to a private landlord, then maybe.
Okay, no, that's fair. Just curious. So we're going to take another quick break here. We've got another segment ahead, and I want to get everybody else's opinion and thoughts after we take a break, and we'll be right back.
Insurance companies say they're going to be there for you when life happens, but the truth is things can get pretty complicated fast when it comes to a personal injury accident. The steps you take after an unexpected crash are crucial. You need help every step of the way. Hey Andy, this is Dave Ramsey. I've been talking about the Randy 7-ish difference for several years now. For 34 years, Randy has helped thousands of people through their worst circumstances. Randy stands as a shield in between you and the insurance company. So even if you've started conversations with the insurance company after an injury accident, talk to Randy 7-ish to make sure you're not leaving money on the table. If you or someone you know has an injury accident, whether you're a pedestrian, passenger, driver, or rider, talk to Randy 7-ish first. Call 317-636-7777 for a no-obligation consultation. 7-ish Law, fierce protectors of the injured. 317-636-7777 or 7ishlaw.com.
Midwest Garage Door Systems, Real Talk's premium sponsor, is a locally and family-owned business, answering your garage door repair and replacement needs for over 30 years in central Indiana. Doing business the right way is what Midwest is all about. Check out MidwestGarageDoors.com or call 317-449-8440, 317-449-8440.
And welcome back to Real Talk. My name is Ron Watson. This is the final segment of our show today. And we're joined in the studio today by Dave Short, Brian Snyder, and Sterling Davis, who is in the phone, in the ether out there somewhere. But we were talking about the credit scores. I just wanted to wrap up this segment of this topic. And I wanted to just mention some of the important factors that creditors are looking at with respect to your credit report. More than anything else, it says here that lenders want to get paid, and this article says about 35% of your score is going to be based on payment history. They're also looking at large amounts of outstanding debt, and that's a significant concern to lenders. They want to look at the track record of responsible credit use, and that will influence the credit rating as well. Opening a bunch of credit cards in a short amount of time is not something that they like to see. Having an established credit history is a positive thing for your credit report, however. And types of credit that's being used, for example, car loans, mortgages, lenders want to see that their clients have experience using multiple sources of credit in reliable ways. So there's some of the factors that credit reports are looking at, and FICO scores in general, and that all kind of goes into and makes up your credit report and your credit score. So I want to go back around the room. We're going to wrap up here again this segment and with a tip with some contact information, how anybody can reach out to some of the guests here on the program. Let's start with Brian Snyder.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ron. So Brian Snyder with Simple Wholesaling. You can reach out to me at any time at brian@simplewholesaling.com. That's BRIAN. I'd love to help you out with whatever you need, have questions about. So also check out on our website at simplewholesaling.com. We have just an ebook on there. We have the podcast. We have some articles just about wholesaling. And yeah, like I said, love to help you out. So my tip of the week revolves around wholesaling and just being able, what you can do with it and getting creative. And kind of along with that is make sure when you are out networking, talking to people, and if you run into somebody that's kind of in that field that you're in, talk to them about the way that they do it and just some different methods that they do it, or just pick their brain as much as you can. I was having a conversation with kind of a young guy, a newbie, that's he's wholesaled, I think 3 or 4 properties last year. He's doing pretty well. He's, hungry and everything. But then I got talking to him and he mentioned something about having a bunch of properties that had tenants in them and he couldn't do anything with them. And I was like, we wholesale properties with tenants all the time. And he's like, oh, really? I didn't know you could do that. So make sure that while you're out there just, talking about things and, networking, make sure you're asking just a bunch of different questions and just reaching out and talking to people through your networking to help you out. So thanks.
Excellent advice, Brian. Thank you very much. And you can do a lot of that type of thing at our CIREIA meetings.
Exactly.
And meet some people that are very, very knowledgeable about real estate investing. Sterling, are you still out there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Didn't get rid of me yet.
Not yet.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Another great show. It's Sterling Davis. I'm with East Property Management. If you guys ever have questions about holding real estate or property management, I love to talk, and I especially love to talk about real estate and holding. I guess my tip of the week would be I keep on helping people sell houses and buy houses, I guess. And it's kind of this thing where it's like, should I use an inspector or should I use a contractor? And I'm like, at the end of the day, I think you need to be the most informed. So don't try to cut corners by trying to make a contractor do an inspector's job. Go ahead and pay the $350 that the inspector charges and get the inspection done so you know what you're dealing with. That is just something that keeps coming up, and I think that's my 2 cents is just pay the inspector and then have the contractor look at it later. If you want to reach out and talk about it further, you can reach me at 888-212-EPMG. It's 888-212-3764. And my name is Sterling Davis. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you very much, Sterling, and we hope that you continue to recover and get back here in the studio again very soon. Dave Short?
Dave Short. I work at Century 21 Sheets. My email is d.short@c21sheets, SCHEETZ.com. My tip of the day, I want to talk a little bit more about this credit report situation, and we have not a lot, but we have a few where parents or uncles will sometimes what they call co-sign on a loan, and they become liable for that loan because the people didn't maybe have enough credit, or maybe their credit wasn't quite where it needed to be, so they needed help on that loan. And I would just caution those people who co-sign on a loan is to make sure that the people you co-signed on are making the payments on a regular basis. Because if they don't make the payments on a regular basis, or they're habitually 30 or 45 or 60 days late when they're making the payments, that will impede your credit, and there'll be nothing you can do about it. And you say, well, I co-signed on this loan. You are liable for the loan. So co-signing is a very serious business decision that you'll make with friends, family, relatives. It's really negligent on car but house loans are just as important, and house loans and car loans affect your credit just as drastically for non-payment.
And Dave, how can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
It's dshort@c21sheets.com. My cell, if you need to get a hold of me, or text, is 317-590-4499.
Thank you very much, and thanks everybody for joining us today. If you're out there listening and you have a question you wanted to hear answered or discussed on the show, please send it to us. Go to our website at CIREIA.org and send us an email. We'd love to hear from you, and if you have a topic to suggest, we'd love to hear that as well. My name is Ron Watson, President of the Board of Directors of CIREIA, and you can reach me at president@cirea.org or stop by my restaurant at Trader's Mill Grill at 5650 West 86th Street in Indianapolis. If you've missed previous episodes, you can listen to them on the CIREIA channel on YouTube or go to cireia.club, which is CIREIA.club, and click on the Resources tab for copies of all of our episodes. And every month at CIREIA, we have 10 small subgroup meetings drilling down on specific topics with local investing experts. You can sign up for membership for the next monthly main meeting at www.cireia.club. In March, Alan Cowgill is coming to town, and he's going to be teaching investors how to put together packages so that investors want to give you money, as well as multiple other techniques involved with borrowing money for investing. And that meeting is the first Thursday of March 7th. Thanks again, everybody, for listening, and we hope you join us again next week.